Hey, what's up, everybody? Tony with Lido Loca. I think some of you know this, but Jenny and I, we make a weekly podcast with our friends Matt and Sandy Allen. It's the Cruise Geeks Lido Loca weekly podcast. It's a cruising podcast that we've been cranking out for well over a year, 61 episodes in. And I wanted to share it with you here on the YouTube channel. A lot of people like to get their podcast to Podbeam or iTunes or a podcast service. But we thought it would just make sense to also have it here on the Lido Loca YouTube channel. That way you could just throw it on and listen to it in the background or throw your YouTube on when you're working out or something like that. Just another way to get the podcast. And really what you're going to get is an hour to an hour and a half of cruising information. We do the same format every week. We give you some cruise news. We have a major topic each week. This week we're talking about what to do in Grand Cayman. Matt is a science educator at the Florida Aquarium down there in Tampa. So we have a cruise creature segment each week. And you know it would not be Lido Loca unless you got a cruise tip. The other cool thing about having the podcast in this format is that we can put links to different sections in the video. I will do that down in the comments. So if you just want to jump to the cruise news or to the cruise creature, you can go click the link in the comments and it'll take you right to that content. So this is episode 61 of the podcast, What to Do in Grand Cayman. I'll be back at the end just to wrap it up, but enjoy this fun cruising content for your ears. And leave a comment below. Let me know if you like having this content here on the Lido Loca YouTube channel.
Welcome aboard to episode 61 of The Cruise Geeks. This week we talk about things to do in Grand Cayman. Well, hello everybody. I'm pretty excited. It's episode 61, but guys, I'm going to be more excited in 13 days. How's everybody doing today?
What will we be doing in 13 days?
I don't know. Sandy, do you know what we're doing in 13 days?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure that Sandy's going to be eating a breakfast burrito right about now at the time we're recording this in 13 days.
From the Blue Iguana Cantina?
I think I will have already eaten a breakfast burrito from the Blue Iguana.
So does that mean we're going on a carnival ship?
We're going on a carnival ship.
Yes, we are. The Carnival Breeze. It's going to be the Lido Loca Cruise Geeks group cruise. It is going to be fantastic. Can't wait. We're super excited.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. It seems like there's still a lot to do. We haven't really started packing yet, but the excitement is starting to creep in. So hopefully that'll motivate us to get everything ship-shape this week.
Well, I don't know about but I've started packing.
I saw you unpacking from our last cruise. I don't know that you've started. I see a lot of clothes hanging around the house. I mean, does that count as packing?
Absolutely it does.
Okay,
I'm figuring out what outfits we're going to bring.
In that case, everything that I have is sitting around the house. So I'm pretty much packed, I guess.
There you
yes,
go.
You are.
Following that logic.
We haven't started packing. Well, I haven't started packing yet. I don't think you have. You started packing yet?
I have not started packing yet, but I, like Jenny, have started gathering for the packing.
She's gathering.
I'm gathering.
She's a gatherer. I'm a hunter. I've been hunting for some good deals on different clothes and stuff like that. Just making sure I got all my gear ready for the cruise. But then, of course, the dreaded part, we've been cleaning the house too. That was not a lot of fun. We're still doing that.
Yeah, just to round it out, I was going to say that I've been foraging. I know there's indie filters in this pile somewhere. let me see if I can find them.
The real question, though, Matt, is do you have pants for this cruise?
You mean like long pants?
I mean long pants, not just short pants. You got plenty of those.
I do. Because I feel like I'm going to have to wear pants twice on this cruise, or
three times, sir.
Oh,
Ooh.
3 times. That's more than the whole year.
Why is that 3 times? Steakhouse and two
elegant nights. Yep.
Oh,
very nice.
I'm excited.
I guess I will go ahead. I mean, here's the thing. Normally when I wear long pants, I'm not getting a fancy dinner, so I suppose I can make the sacrifice and wear the long pants.
Thank you, Matt.
I tell you what. Now, I've seen you off and on for the last, year and a half, that kind of thing. You look good in pants, Matt. So, I just say embrace it. And I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm not saying that it's not fun to look at your legs, but sometimes having them covered up is not a bad thing.
Wow, that's a lot of bromance going on right there.
That's right.
I don't know. I got enough fur on my legs. Somebody might think it's pants anyway. So.
Oh, you're not shaving your legs for the cruise?
Not this one.
Oh, I got the wrong note, I think. Wow, I'm gonna be itchy for nothing. Wow, Jenny, you said that came from the guys. How dare you?
I mean, we still have time.
Wow.
We still have time.
That's true. Oh yeah, I'll send you the note. You're supposed to shave your legs.
All right.
Wow, so we have we are ready to cruise. It sounds like, and but I guess the folks came to hear the Cruise Geeks, and we do have some cruise news.
What news is there in the cruising world?
There's none. No, I'm just kidding. A big follow-up to a story that we covered last week. It's hard to imagine that it was only last Saturday that the Viking Sky had so much trouble off of the coast of Norway, but they have already launched, completed, and have a finding as to what went wrong on the Viking Sky. This was handled by the government of Norway. It's the Norwegian Maritime Authority. Of course, whenever I hear Norwegian, I'm thinking of the cruise line. But in this context, the Norwegian Maritime Authority is actually a governmental body there in Norway. And what they found is that this ship, when it sailed into some rocky weather, and the ship was rolling from side to side. And the way the engines work on the cruise ship is there is an oil reserve that feeds oil to the engine to keep the engine parts lubricated. And apparently, according to the finding, the rolling was so significant that the oil rolled away from where it was supposed to leave the reserve to the point that the engine thought it was out of oil. And it automatically shut down as a failsafe.
Wow.
And they couldn't get it turned back on. So Viking has they've come out with a statement saying that there was the appropriate amount of oil on the cruise ship, but because of this rolling in the weird weather, this thing happened. And so they accepted the finding of the Maritime Authority, and they've already gone to they have 6 ocean liners, and they've already gone to those other ships and verified that the oil was correct, and they're working on a process to make sure that this automatic shutdown doesn't happen. There's still some lingering questions whether they should have been sailing in that weather. I don't know if that's still under investigation. But, 20 injuries because of this incident. And right now you can go to Google and you can find account after account of what passengers went through. And it sounds pretty terrifying, the situation. But at least there was a solution that was identifiable that they can rectify going forward. And it's kind of funny. I used to ignore the oil light on my car, and I ended up blowing up an engine when I was a teenager of my 1978 Datsun B210. And so I was having flashbacks reading the story to that. I couldn't imagine that a cruise ship could be disabled by lack of oil, but that was the situation.
Well, and the crazy part is it sounds like it was actually a safety mechanism that shut it down and ended up causing the danger. So there's a little irony there, but I guess the outcome would have been worse had it been actually out of oil. So it's interesting.
Right.
Interesting.
It was wild to me that they couldn't correct that.
I
do understand. I do understand the fail-safe, but, at some point it seems like they could have, and maybe that's what they did to get it fixed, but it seems like it took a long time to get that reestablished, that the oil was there and get it all back on. I mean, to the point where they decided to do a helicopter evacuation. They were that uncertain of how to fix it. So, yeah, it's pretty wild.
I wonder if they tried turning it off and on again. Because
yeah,
usually that...
If they would have called me, I would have told them to reboot.
I mean, that usually works.
That's right.
Like in Jurassic Park, that's what they did. They just had to go out and turn it off and turn it back on again, and works on the computer. It just seems like it fixes most things.
Maybe not on the high seas. Well, I know you'll dig this because it's all based in science. There's a new theme cruise for 2020. If cruising with the rock band Kiss or fans of the TV show The Golden Girls in 2020 doesn't float your boat, you can take to the seas with a more serious group of people. There is a themed cruise for flat earthers in 2020. Now, if you're unfamiliar, flat earthers are people who reject the notion that the Earth is round and rather suggest that the Earth is a flat disk in space surrounded by a huge ice wall. The final details of the cruise is yet to come, but on the official website of the organization that hosts this flat Earth cruise, there's a picture of an Oasis-class ship from Royal Caribbean. So there's no real announcement there other than a cruise is coming, and speculation is they're going to like commandeer a cruise ship and try to sail to the end of the world. I don't think it's going to be that. I think it's just going to be like a cruise to the Caribbean where they have a conference or something like that. But what's interesting is one of the contentions for people that reject, most science rejects the idea that the Earth is flat, right? So like you really have to kind of go out on a limb to be a flat earther. It's becoming more popular, but traditionally, people that sail, they use coordinates that are based on a spherical representation of the Earth to get from point A to point B. So there's a little irony in that. But so I don't know if their goal is to sail to the end of the Earth, but it could be a long cruise if that's the point. Now, just to say, the date is the 31st of March, and tomorrow is April Fool's Day. So I don't know if these folks are just trolling on their website. Again, there's no official cruise laid out there, so who knows? Maybe they are trolling with a little April Fool's joke. But as of today, they are saying there will be a themed cruise for the flat earther.
Maybe they will make the complete circumference of the Earth, and then they'll change their mind. Or do they think it's going to be a one-way trip? I don't know. I don't know.
That's right. Well, they'll hit the ice wall and have to stop, so
Right.
It makes sense. It's a little bit like Game of Thrones. The winter's coming for those folks.
I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. If there's one place to know that the Earth is a sphere, it is sitting and looking out over the open ocean where you could sort of actually see the curve of the Earth. Like, if I've done this a lot where I'll sit below like a railing, and the railing is straight, right? So that's closer to you. And then you look at the horizon and you can actually see that the horizon bends a little bit to the right and to the left of your point of view. So
that's fake news, Matt. You're not following along with these people.
All right. Any other news for the day?
Yeah, there is one less excursion in Amsterdam. It seems like there's been some contention between the city of Amsterdam and the cruise industry lately. Amsterdam started the year by introducing a new tax on cruise ship passengers who were visiting there. They started charging $9.12 per day per passenger for a 24-hour period, in addition to the already significant port and tax fees that are charged by the cruise line. And now they have banned all cruise ship excursions going to the red light district.
Uh-oh.
I didn't even know that this was a thing, but you could book a cruise line excursion that would go to the red light district in Amsterdam. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what this is, prostitution is legal in Amsterdam, and the sex workers work in this area called the red light district. And apparently it's like window shopping there. The way that they peddle their wares is in large open windows where you can go and decide what you're going to partake in. And I guess you could go on a cruise and buddy up with all of your friends on the cruise ship and wander around the red light district as a tourist. Now, the government has cited this has caused significant congestion there. And it's interesting. And I think, we come from a culture that is a lot less liberal when it comes to these kind of things. And so it's nice to hear the government say that they feel like they're treating their sex workers disrespectfully by letting people come and look at them in that way. And so the deputy mayor, his quote is, "It is outdated to treat sex workers as a tourist attraction." So Amsterdam continues to try to be progressive on what it allows to go on in the city. And again, there's already some cruise lines because of that daily tax that have stopped going to Amsterdam. And I'm not sure how this will affect the ones that are still there, but I was kind of shocked that they had such a tour where you could just sign up and go wander around the red light district.
I'm probably sorry that you missed it.
How dare you?
Oh.
How dare you, Jen?
Come on, that's Cole's window shopping, I suppose.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
And he'll leave it at that.
All I know is I didn't know the term thunder from down under until Jenny and I went to Las Vegas and she educated me. So that's all I'm saying.
I still don't know that.
Matt, I can see the confused look on your face.
Yeah.
That's a male strip club. Strip show on the Vegas Strip. So.
Gotcha. All right.
Sandy's smiling like she knows exactly what that is. So I don't know. But yeah, so that's cruise news. So if that was on your excursion bucket list, you're going to have to cross it off or go to Amsterdam another way.
All right. Well, our main topic this week, we kind of told you last week, if you listened in on episode 60, we covered Nassau last week. This week, we're heading over to Grand Cayman. We're going to talk about some things we can do in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah, so the Cayman Islands, now I was tasked with looking up some of the history of the Cayman Islands, so I'll give you guys a little background just to set the scene. Some sources report that Columbus spotted the Cayman Islands on his fourth voyage to the New World back in 1504. He called the islands Las Tortugas because he was surrounded by turtles. And that was one of the first distinguishing features of Grand Cayman. We were actually on Grand Cayman, and we took a tour, and the lady was very adamant about Columbus never setting foot on the Cayman Islands. I don't know what the point of contention is there, but I think maybe the challenge is Columbus gets a lot of credit for discovering most everything, whether he went there or not. And so maybe she was drawing a line, but it was actually the explorer Sir Francis Drake that made the first recorded visit on land there in the Cayman Islands in 1586. And he named the islands Cayman, which is a variation of the Caribbean native word for crocodile. And it was just a different spelling, but I think pronounced the same, Cayman. And so for crocodile. And what Drake noted is that it was an island that was full of reptiles, iguanas, crocodile, turtles. And so that was the distinguishing feature that he...
What is this paradise you speak of?
Yeah, this might be a place that you like. But really, the islands were considered to be uninhabited prior to the 1500s. And so what started happening is the fact that the turtles were there, it became a hotbed for sailors that were making their way around the Caribbean. The protein from turtle meat and the ability to easily get it made it a super popular place to fish for turtles. And really, it was overfished. It really became a challenge. The turtle populations were decimated, but it became a stopping place for sailors, and it became really a haven for pirates. The history of that time, we got to go back to the 1500s, where after Columbus basically discovers the New World, there's an influx of Spanish explorers and an influx of British explorers. And the idea is they want to claim as much land for their empires as possible. So you have this major colonization push from Spain and from Great Britain. And they have to go to these islands and they have to contend with the pirates, the folks that have kind of stepped out of society and are making their way on ships, plundering other ships and living on these islands. And so it's pretty interesting. The actual kind of colonization of Cayman happens after Great Britain and Spain decide to quit fighting each other. So there's a treaty, it's called the Treaty of Madrid, that was signed in 1670, and basically Spain and England said, look, let's not fight each other, let's kind of fix the pirate problem down there, and that way we can figure out what we're going to do with the land. And so as part of that treaty, England, Great Britain was given Jamaica and Cayman as one of their territories. And the way it was, those two were lumped together. So Jamaica was the main colony and Cayman was just a dependency on Jamaica. And that's the way it rolled. There was a governor in Jamaica that kind of made the rules for Cayman. And one of the things that he did is he instituted slavery in 1734. And so there was a huge influx of African slaves into Cayman, primarily on Grand Cayman Island, starting in 1734, all the way until slavery was abolished in 1834. And so you've got 100 years of slavery. And so if you look at the population of Cayman today, Grand Cayman, it's primarily a mix of British and Africans. And so that's kind of what makes up the population. Now, they were ruled as a dependency with Jamaica until 1962, and then they became their own colony. And so now in Cayman, there is a provisional governor that is appointed by the Queen, and they live on their own. The other thing that's interesting is there was a story where the inhabitants, the people that had settled Grand Cayman, helped a British ruler. And it was a big shipwreck, so there's a lot of reefs there, and they saved a bunch of folks on a shipwreck. It's called I believe the wreck of the 10 Cells. And one of the outcomes of that, it was a high-ranking British official, part of the royalty. He said, "Because you've saved us, there will never be tax in the Cayman Islands." Now, some say it's a myth, but this is kind of the lore. But it's one of the places in the world that is tax-free, and it became a banking center because of that in the 1950s. It's one of those places where you can put your money without any tax implications, and so it is a huge financial center. And then it also became a hot tourist spot in the 1950s because dive pioneer Bob Soto opened a dive shop there in Grand Cayman. So it's a rich, interesting history in Grand Cayman, in the Cayman Islands. And really, as you look at it today, it really is still that big financial center and a really big spot for tourism, but a really interesting, rich history of the Cayman Islands.
That is cool. Yeah, I love the Caribbean history. I mean, what's not to like? Pirates and reptiles. Grand Cayman is just like awesome. Very cool.
And now no tax?
And no tax. Well, you always hear about, the Cayman Island banks are kind of infamous. So that's why. Now we know. Now we know the story.
So yeah, that's really the historical. Now, the interesting thing that we've all taken our own piece of Grand Cayman that we want to share with you. I've got some major attractions. Jenny's got food. Matt's got the animals, and Sandy's got the beaches. Sandy Beaches, get it? And so yeah, let's take you on a little tour of Grand Cayman. I don't know who wants to kick it off. Matt, do you want to start with some of the creature features there on Grand Cayman?
Yeah. So since you mentioned the whole turtle thing and how they became like a endangered species and everything, I want to talk about the turtle farm, which is not actually called the Turtle Farm. If you go to visit it, it's the Cayman Turtle Center. And this is the only place in the world that farms sea turtles. So it's kind of a unique thing. And you can go and visit this place on different excursions. Sometimes you're just stopping by for a minute. Sometimes you can make a whole day of it. They've got a lot of different opportunities of things you can do, not just see the sea turtles, but you can also check out, there's like a pool you can swim in and snorkel in, and there's other animal encounters. They have what they call a caiman, which is actually an American crocodile named Smiley. She's an 11-foot, 300-pound American crocodile who they do programming with.
Aww.
Yeah, it's very cute, very cute. And this turtle center, it's come under some controversy, and people are sometimes curious about it because it is a legitimate farm. So they do actually raise these turtles, and a percentage of them are slaughtered as a source of meat, things like that. I've looked into this pretty heavily because you can imagine I certainly don't want to support any organization that is doing harm to the turtle population. And what I found is that this facility does more good than it does harm. There's a few areas where they could improve a little bit in the way that they maintain their turtle population, but on the whole, they are a force of positive for the sea turtle population. And what's really exciting is they are the only place on the planet that has successfully been able to breed Kemp's Ridley sea turtles. And because of this, they have released a lot of these hatchlings into the wild, as well as the green sea turtles, which is their source of income for, they don't ever use the meat of the Kemp's Ridley. And they're finding that some of their turtles that were raised, like second generation sea turtles that were raised at this facility and that have been released, are now coming back to the Cayman Islands to nest. And the green sea turtle population in the Cayman Islands is now booming. So it's a pretty cool facility.
Awesome. Have you ever been there?
I have not been there. Every time I go to Cayman, I want to go and get in the open water. So I've been there 3 times. I've gone diving there 3 times. And so I have not been able to pull myself away because the scuba diving in Cayman Islands, which I'll get into in a little bit here, is outstanding. In fact, there are actually 3 islands in the Caymans, and the one that you're usually on a cruise, or I think always on a cruise, is Grand Cayman. But there's also Cayman Brac and I think Little Cayman. And Jacques Cousteau came to one of these smaller islands at some point and said that it was the most outstanding dive site in the entire world. And who would know better than Jacques Cousteau? So that's pretty high praise. And I can tell you the scuba diving I've done there has been pretty outstanding.
What else is on your things to do from a creature diving perspective?
So the only other thing I really have to cover with the creature aspect of Cayman Islands, there is a place you can go and you can snorkel, and it's just a grass flat. It's shallow, and it's called Starfish Beach. And of course, there's a lot of the Bahamian sea stars and other sea stars there, and you can see those. Now, there is, of course, a very famous thing you can do in Grand Cayman, perhaps the most famous excursion of them all, and that has to do with stingrays. And Sandy actually is going to talk about that because she has done this excursion. Sandy, you want to tell us about the Stingray City?
Yes, I have done this excursion, and this is probably the number one activity on Grand Cayman. I mean, you hear about Grand Cayman, you hear about Stingray City, and that's what most people tend to do. So Stingray City is actually 2 shallow sandbars that's located on the northwest corner of Grand Cayman's North Sound. A lot of cruise ship excursions will take you to Stingray City, as well as third-party tour operators. So there are a lot of options. It's about a 25-minute boat ride, and you're actually in about 3 to 4 feet of water. There are tons of stingrays all around you, and they're huge. They're used to people, and the tour operators that take you on these excursions, they will kind of corral a stingray for you to touch and get your picture taken with. But you can just stand there and stingrays will just swim around you. It's a pretty awesome experience. You can usually do an excursion either through the cruise line or a third party that will combine the Stingray City stop with, like Matt mentioned, Starfish Point is one of them. You can do a combination of the Stingray City and the Turtle Farm. So there's a lot of options for Stingray City.
And those stingrays started going to that sandbar because fishermen were going out there and cleaning their catch, and then the stingrays kind of caught on pretty fast. Stingrays are fast learners, and they picked up on it, and then it's kind of become this sort of tourism industry now where the stingrays go out there. And if you're wondering why the stingrays aren't stinging people, it's because stingrays are just animals, and they don't want to sting you. That's not like their goal in life is sting the human. It's just a way to defend themselves. And the stingrays are coming there voluntarily to be around the humans because they know that the humans are bringing the food. And so as long as you don't stomp on them, they don't have any reason to attack you or anything like that. So they will tell you to shuffle your feet and just be wary of that. And I do know that you can actually do a scuba diving excursion there as well. Now, this is a great dive for people who are very new to scuba diving because it's super shallow water. There's virtually no risk in shallow water scuba diving, and it gives you sort of a different perspective of the stingrays rather than just snorkeling because you're down low, kind of at eye level with the stingrays, which is a really cool thing to do, is look a stingray in the eyes and kind of make that connection.
Now, when I did my stingray excursion, I went through a third-party excursion company called Captain Marvin's. Captain Marvin's is not sponsoring us or anything, but I can highly...
I mean, if they want to.
You can if you want to, Captain Marvin.
They should.
But I had an awesome experience, and I will say that sometimes going through a third party, you might have a better experience just because your groups are normally smaller than what you book through the cruise line. And Captain Marvin's is actually located right across the street from the cruise terminal on the north side, and it's extremely convenient. They were an awesome, awesome group of people to work with. They offer many different tours that you can take. The one we did was a stop at Stingray City and then Coral Gardens. So we had a stingray stop, and then we also had a snorkeling stop, and that was $40 a person, and it was great.
Is that the one where my mom actually was with you and she went to snorkel around the coral and then got on the wrong boat?
That would be the one.
All right.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
as Bev and I were relaxing on the boat watching for her, we looked over and saw her climbing the steps to get on another boat.
Oh, no.
How did that resolve? Did you guys get her before the boat took off?
We did, thankfully.
Okay.
She realized she was on the wrong boat once she got on there.
not the official cruise tip of the week, but if you do go on a snorkeling excursion, make sure you get on the right boat. It can be confusing because you get in the water and there's usually, if it's a popular spot like that, there might be like 4 or 5 boats that look very, very similar in that vicinity. And so it doesn't take much to just climb up the wrong ladder. So
yeah, it can be a little disorienting when you're in the water and you look up and all you see are just boats. So it's hard to tell sometimes which one is yours. But yeah, but we got her back, thankfully.
So Matt, you mentioned that the reason the stingrays came to the sandbar was because it became a food source. It just reminded me, of course, in academic studies today, they tell you to make sure you verify your sources, that you don't use Wikipedia, for example. Because I was doing some research on the stingray, and what I read there was that the reason they went to the sandbar was dollar Coronas. So I think maybe that. I think it's a good lesson for everybody out there to check your sources. So very, very cool.
Oh man, they weren't offering dollar Coronas when I was there.
It's because the stingrays got them all. They're heavy drinkers, stingrays. I mean, they're always in the water. Drink like a fish. That's where that came from.
Ah, now we know.
All right, so talking about food and Coronas, there is a lot of interesting food options in Cayman and Grand Cayman. Jenny, do you have a food recommendation if we go there?
All right, you guys. So there is a theme that's going around, and that's the turtle. And like Matt said, and Tony, in the history, the population of the turtle is a protein there, but they do have farms that raise them to help with the population. And do we want to know why? Because that's the national dish is turtle stew.
Oh, wow.
It's almost like an American stew, but it's made with turtle and cassava and potatoes and onions and peppers.
Interesting.
Well, I've never tried turtle. Would you try the turtle? I don't. Matt, would you objectionably not try the turtle, or who? I think I would try turtle. I guess just to have the experience, the food experience.
Well, I mean, have you tasted gator, Matt?
He has.
I have. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is turtle. Any food that is farmed or fished in a sustainable manner, I'm not going to have an issue with it on that level. So I have no problem with the people in the Caymans eating turtle as long as they're doing it in a sustainable way and the population is not suffering. I mean, I eat cows and chickens and pigs all the time. And I did eat gator because that's the same strategy that was used to save the American alligator, and it's been used to save many of the other species of crocodilians. As long as it's done in the right way, I have no issues. Now, I did feel a little weird eating alligator. I kind of felt like I was eating
a friend,
like a cat or something like that for me. And it did taste a little fishy, which I don't do fishy. So I probably would not eat sea turtle because it would feel a little weird because I've taken care of sea turtles and things like that. And also, I suspect it'll have a little bit of a fishy flavor since it's a saltwater animal.
That's what I was going to ask, if it would have a fishy taste, and that would exclude me from trying it.
I've heard that alligators taste fishy. This sounds like a joke setup, but it's not, because they eat a lot of fish, and so it's sort of dietary dependent. And sea turtles eat a lot of different things, but crab and fish are one of the things they eat. So I don't know. I don't know if it'd be fishy or not.
I think we're going to have to check that out next time we go.
Yeah, we do.
Maybe it tastes like chicken.
Yeah,
why is chicken the thing everything tastes like? Why aren't the other animals not going there? No, everything tastes like me.
That's the funniest thing. One of my favorite comedy bits was from Bobcat Goldthwait in the 80s. And he was talking about somebody trying to get him to try some exotic food. And he's like, it tastes like chicken, tastes like chicken. It's like, why don't I just get chicken? It's the most inexpensive piece of meat that you can buy. Why am I eating squirrel if it tastes just like chicken? I think he makes a good point.
I agree. I remember a skit by him where he was drinking a Tab Cola on stage and he was reading the ingredients and he made a comment that it was the exact same ingredients as a battery. It's a funny guy.
So, Jenny, in addition to... Now, when we went to Grand Cayman, I don't think we were anywhere where they had turtle, but there were some other interesting food things there. Anything else jump out food-wise on Grand Cayman?
Absolutely. So the Grand Cayman cuisine is heavily influenced by Jamaica and some British influence as well. So when we were there, we did have a beef patty. And
it was good.
It was pretty amazing.
Yeah. And it was in the style, it was a Jamaican beef patty, right?
Yeah, with nice spices and heat and fried. I mean, anything is good fried, right?
Right,
Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the
I'll
rule.
continue. I'll continue on with that story. We actually had that at the Tortuga Rum Cake Factory, and so, like many of the other Caribbean islands, rum and spirits play a big part in things to do there. And so, if you don't necessarily want to go for a day at the beach, or if you don't want to go adventuring in the water, you can actually do a couple interesting things in Grand Cayman surrounding the rum culture. When we were there, we went to, of course, the Tortuga Rum Cake Factory, and that's where they had the beef patty shop. It was like a little fast food shop, and it was good. They gave you samples not only of rum, but samples of rum cake. And then we also went to this thing that was pretty interesting, the Seven Fathoms Distillery, and they make this thing called the Seven Fathoms Rum. Now, the distillery tour, really interesting. We did it through the cruise ship. They allow you to sample every bit of alcohol that they make there, and so if you're not watching yourself, you could get a little drunk on that tour. But the interesting thing is they make this Seven Fathoms rum, and it really is a throwback to pirate culture. They distill the rum and then they store it in the ocean 7 fathoms deep in barrels for a certain period of time.
It came from the deep.
It came from the deep. I don't know how much that affects it, but it was really interesting. So there's a couple, there's definitely some things that you can do if you want to get your drink on and chalk it up as an excursion, as a learning experience. You can go and get a little drink and a little information. But 7 Fathoms we did in the Tortuga Rum Cake Factory, and they were both a good time in Grand Cayman.
I would definitely agree. I think there we also had that Johnny cake, which is also another popular side dish. That's the deep fried dumpling and bread, and you rip it apart.
We did have the Johnny cake. Now that you mention it,
Yes.
Ooh.
Wow.
I'm getting really hungry over here.
I know.
Me too. Somebody get us away from the food. Sandy, what is the popular beach there in Grand Cayman?
Well, Tony, the most popular beach in Grand Cayman is 7 Mile Beach. And
How long is that thing?
not 7 miles.
It's a trick.
It's actually
They
about
named it on April Fool's Day, I think. That's right.
No, 7 Mile Beach is not actually 7 miles long. It is about 6.3 miles. So, yeah,
Close enough.
a little short of 7. But, it tends to become victim of annual erosion like most beaches do. So, it makes sense that it's not actually 7 miles long. It is the closest and most accessible public beach for cruise passengers, and it's located on the western end of Grand Cayman. Now, a lot of people ask, can we walk to 7 Mile Beach? Well, you could. It's only about a 2 mile walk, but you're walking, carrying all your stuff along the main drag of Grand Cayman in the hot sun. So it's probably, you could do it if you really wanted to. I wouldn't recommend it. It's so easy and convenient. There are cabs waiting for you as you exit the cruise terminal, and it's about $4 to $5 per person. They'll take you on the short ride directly to 7 Mile Beach. There are quite a few resorts that have restaurants that are open to the public and have beach access, as well as beach bars. Calico Jack's is one of those. They do offer chairs and things that you can rent on the beach. A lot of the resorts used to offer day passes that you could use some of their amenities and have access to the beach that they're located on. But I think that's becoming a thing of the past. When I was researching for our cruise in January, because we just wanted to do a beach day, I did come across a couple of resorts that offered them. Weston was one, Margaritaville was another. But now that is no more. I cannot find those at all. The only resort that offers a day pass still, I looked at Resort for a Day. That's usually a good spot where you can find these deals. Holiday Inn is the only hotel right now offering a day pass on Grand Cayman for 7 Mile Beach. And it's about $60 for adults, $35 for kids. It does come with a food and beverage credit, so that's not too bad. You get access to the pool, beach chairs, and umbrellas. They also have a swimming pool, but there's no ocean swimming. They don't allow you to swim in the ocean there because it has sharp limestone in the water, so they don't want anybody to get hurt. Maybe not the place to look for for your beach day if you want to actually get in the water at the beach. Transportation is not included, so you would have to take a cab. What I would recommend, however, is Royal Palms Beach Club. Now, Royal Palms Beach Club, we did this in January, and it's pretty much an a la carte type club. For a $2 entrance fee, you can get in. You take a taxi ride to Royal Palms. They do give you access to the beach. They have an adults-only pool with a swim-up bar. They have poolside cabanas for rent, $75 for up to 6 people. That gets you a private lounger for 2 and seating for 6. They do rent chairs and umbrellas, and they also have ocean cabanas that you can rent. Now, that's the option we chose. There were 5 of us, and the ocean cabanas hold 6 people. You get a table for 6 plus 4 lounge chairs for $125. So
that's not bad.
Yeah, it was pretty good pricing, and they offer food and drinks because they have a restaurant on site. And the prices were actually not bad. Everything is in Cayman Island dollars. You know, our bill was actually probably what we would have spent going to a nice restaurant. And they do offer some water sport activities. Saltwater Water Sports Cayman offers jet skis, jet packs, snorkel tours, paddle boards, and floats that you can all rent. So
that's jetpacks, like in the 70s when you
Yes.
saw that, like people like
literally, yes. I saw a few of those go up as we were on the beach, and yes, they rent jetpacks. So it was a really good day at Royal Palms Beach Club, and if you are looking for a beach day, I would recommend that, because although 7 Mile Beach is a public beach and there's a lot of beach access, there's not a lot of spots where there's nice amenities where you can, you know, get chairs and have public restrooms. So keep that in mind.
The only thing that I was going to say is you guys did do some video from that beach club. And so if you guys want a better look, if you want to visualize what Sandy's talking about, go check out the Cruise Geeks YouTube channel. And I can't remember exactly what you guys titled that vlog, but there was some good footage from there, and it does make that place look super enticing.
Yeah, I think
It also had rum drinks.
Yes.
yeah, with like a
Sandy drank the biggest drink I've ever
with like
seen.
a cider hanging out in it. Yeah, it's just
Which is very popular on the Cayman Islands.
Oh.
I did want to mention one other thing. The distillery that I was talking about has an official name. I just associate it with the 7 Fathoms rum, but the actual place is called the Cayman Spirits Distillery. Yeah. So the Cayman Spirits Company Distillery. So that's what you're looking for if you're looking for 7 Fathoms. I'm sure you can search for 7 Fathoms, but I just wanted to make sure that info was out there.
And I think on our YouTube channel, Lido Loca, we have, was that the Princess Cruise?
Yeah, there's some video of that distillery tour. I forgot all about that. So yeah, we can provide a link for that too.
And the Jamaican beef patties there too.
That was good.
Yeah, I'll put a link to both of those in the description so you guys can check them out and see what all these places look like. I will also say, now food wasn't our thing to cover, but I do feel like I should mention that our favorite rum cake is found in the Cayman Islands. And
yes,
we enjoy Tortuga, but there's a place called the Rum Stop. It has Blackbeard's rum cakes, and they're really good. They're really good. And it's right by port. Is there other shopping that you can do that's in the Cayman Islands?
Yeah, one of the things that are on my list was just Georgetown in general. That is, of course, where most of the cruise ships stop. And we should mention, I think every cruise line has to tender into Grand Cayman, so that means your cruise ship is going to dock somewhere off the coast, and they'll use a smaller boat to get you to shore. And most of the time, you end up in Georgetown, which is I think it's the capital city there of Grand Cayman. It's home to many of the financial centers that we talked about earlier, and there's a pretty big art culture there. You can go and see fine art. There's a art museum. There's a sculpture museum. Like you said, there's a lot of shopping there. And what we noticed when we were there is it was super safe. Like one of those ports that you could feel completely comfortable walking around. Everything was really nice and well kept. And I would not hesitate to walk around Grand Cayman. And then I wanted to highlight a little bit the Queen Elizabeth II Botanical Garden that is kind of there near Georgetown. It was opened in 1994 as a nonprofit, a way to do conservation. Started out with a woodland trail, and then it's evolved over time. And now they grow a variety of plants there. They also have a blue iguana habitat. and it's really an interesting place where you can go and go hiking. You can do photography, environmental photography, and you can also take part in really what is an interesting conservation effort to reclaim some of the area there on Grand Cayman and promote some of the natural habitat. And have you guys been? I know you guys know about the botanical garden. Did you actually make the trip over there?
We have not. I've watched some videos on it on YouTube. I found some videos of it, and it looks really outstanding. You know, Cayman Islands are one of those places that I need to go for like a week because there's so many things to do. But there's
a lot to do.
Yeah, it's just so awesome underwater there that I just, I've only been there 3 times.
If we could get Matt out of the water,
I just can't get away from that.
Then I'd love to do that.
There's so much to see. In fact, some of the other things that you can do, there's so many places to dive and snorkel in the Cayman Islands, but I'll just highlight a couple of them. There are some wrecks there. So the first wreck I want to mention is the wreck of the Cali. This was a cargo ship that was built in the 1900s. So this was like a 4-mast ship, but they fitted a diesel engine on it, and it just wasn't really made for that. So it just shivered the timbers, I guess you could say. And this ship was sailing past Grand Cayman. It was holding 30,000 bags of rice. It sprung a leak, and this is crazy. Okay, so what does rice do when it gets water in it? It expands. It expanded and it ruptured the hull.
Oh my gosh!
They had to bring it in and scuttle it, and they actually sunk it. And this is in 1948. It's only about 40 yards from shore and about 30 feet of water. So this is a really great wreck to go if you just want to snorkel or if you're a new diver. And it's actually really close to the cruise ship port. You can actually just walk there and just get in the water and swim out to it. You may want a dive flag with you. They probably have some safe zones though where you'd be okay. But yeah, this is a great way to see a wreck that you can just swim out to. It's an easy swim. 30 feet of water is not bad. And that's the bottom, so it doesn't stick up too high. But still, there's a lot of marine life that has moved in over the years. It's become sort of an artificial reef of sorts. Now, I have not had an opportunity to partake in this particular wreck, but it is on my list of things to do. There's a famous wreck there called the Kittiwake. Now, this was a 1945. It was a submarine assistance ship or something of that nature. There's a lot of interesting history about the Kittiwake. It may have had some very covert missions in its time, so it was a pretty important ship. And it actually was decommissioned, and they purposely sunk it in 2011. January 2011, they got all the toxic stuff off the ship, and they sunk it with the intention of it becoming an artificial reef. Now, it's at the end of 7 Mile Beach, but it's a little bit too far out to just swim to from the beach. You do want to take a boat there. A lot of the local dive shops will provide this opportunity, and it sits now in about 60 feet of water. It actually used to be about 20 feet shallower, but Hurricane Nate came through a few years back and actually moved it a little bit. So
oh, wow.
It is now in a little bit deeper water. Now, the one thing I will say, I kind of went back and forth when we went there in January. Do we want to dive the Kittiwake, or do we want to try this other site? I chose not to dive the Kittiwake because it is such a new wreck, 2011, that it hasn't really become encrusted with corals and sponges, and there's not a lot of marine life there. So if you're going to the Kittiwake, you're going there for the coolness of it being a wreck and not necessarily the coolness of the marine life. But there is some marine life, and I suspect that will increase as time goes on. That's the whole purpose of them kind of sinking it down there. But it's pretty impressive looking shipwreck. Now, what I did do instead of diving on the Kittiwake is we ended up going to another place. And so you get off the cruise ship, right? You're in the port area, and you can either go to the left and go to the wreck of the Cali, or you go to the right and you can walk to the Eden Rock Dive Center, which is actually right on a dive site called Eden Rock or Devil's Grotto, which is a really, really impressive coral reef, and it is right there. It's a shore dive. It's a shore snorkel. What we actually did is we went and dove this site, and then we came back, we turned in our scuba gear, we went right back out and just went free diving on this area and snorkeling, and it was really cool. There's caves you can dive through, and but they're not like dangerous caves like you get in Florida. They're like big open caves, you can get out of them and stuff. Huge tarpon all over this area, and just schools of fish. It's just a really, really beautiful, impressive place to dive. Now, in the past, I've dove just down the road a little bit from a company called Don Foster's, and I highly recommend Don Foster's if you're looking to do some sort of a dive trip, because they do have shore dives right from Don Foster's, and it's a nice reef. It's very pretty. It's not as impressive as Eden's Rock, but it is still a nice place. But they will take you to various dive sites around the Caymans, depending on the weather and the visibility. It can vary a little bit, but there are like 365 registered dive spots in the Cayman Islands. So
wow.
You're not going to hurt for spots to dive. And it's a really cool place to go. And again, you can just walk to it, although I think we've taken a cab. It's just, maybe a 5-minute cab ride or something like that. I don't know. Stephen Wright said it best. Every place is walking distance if you've got the time. But this one, you might want to just take a cab to this one. And then just a couple other places that you might want to know about. There are some places where you can snorkel, or maybe snorkel only unless you have your own dive gear, from the beach. And that's one of the things we were looking for. Sandy was going to do the beach. I was going to go diving or snorkeling. And we had a hard time finding that mix. And that's because it doesn't really exist very well. Mm-hmm. So there are a couple places on 7 Mile Beach or 6.3 Mile Beach that do offer some good snorkeling. One of them is called Cemetery Beach, which is part of that. And then the other one is called Governor's Beach. Now, the reason that these are not great beach spots is because they have zero amenities, no bathrooms. I think they may have some grills and picnic tables, but that's about it. So if you're looking for a recliner, if you're looking for, a frozen drink, a little bit of food, you're not going to find any of that. But if you're looking for snorkeling and pretty much free snorkeling, you just got to get over there. Those are decent sites to check out.
Wow, it sounds like a good time if you like to get in the water. That's the thing that really impressed me as we were doing the research. Now, one thing that I've learned over our cruising lifetime is that it really is important to do the research in advance, and hopefully some of this will help folks out there. When we first went to Grand Cayman, we didn't really do a lot of research. We knew there's one tourist attraction that everybody said to go to, and I'm hesitant to recommend it, but I will tell folks about it. They say when you go to Grand Cayman, you should go to hell, and this was something that fascinated me. You can go send a postcard from hell. You can go to the gift shop in hell. You can go to hell. So I was kind of hyped. We got that distillery tour. I actually had a stop at hell, and I was super hyped. I was super excited to go see it. And it's a little bit of a letdown. I will tell you that if you have 12 minutes and it's part of something else that you can do, go to hell. But basically, hell is really a geographic phenomena there in Grand Cayman. It is where volcanic rock has pushed up from the surface, and I would say it's less than a football field's worth of interesting, burnt, volcanic-looking rock sticking up from the ground. That I think that's a fair and accurate description. There's no molten lava. There's nothing going on. It's just black rock with some devil paintings around it. And it's interesting in the fact that you can get a postcard. There's a post office there. You can buy a postcard and get it postmarked from hell. But it really is more touristy than anything else. Again, if you got 10 minutes and it's a part of a tour, check it out, but I wouldn't make a day of it.
Not the hot location, people say.
But there's so much more that goes with that, because I was able to tell you to go to hell.
Yeah. So it really gave, and at least for the first time, I could prove what I've been saying, that when I'm with Jenny, I'm in hell. So it's I mean, that probably sounded worse than I meant it, but yeah. So I've been to hell and back with Jenny, and so that's a good thing.
And I didn't leave you there.
And that was before we went to Grand Cayman. So,
I've seen.
I hope that's a joke.
Walking to Eden Rock and along the side, I saw some rock formations that looked like some of that plutonic rock that that I've seen video of. I haven't been to hell myself, but I've seen a lot of video of it, and I don't think this was as massive of an area, but it was also right next to the cruise ship. So you can see that same sort of formation, I think, just in a smaller doses, like right next to the cruise ship, and you don't have to go make the trip all the way to hell unless, it's that Persephone thing, and you got to go there to get her back from Hades and all. Anyway, Greek mythology.
Well, that's right. And the other interesting thing is I was there. There was a convention of flat earthers saying this proves there is no afterlife. Hell is right here on the flat earth. So you never know what you're going to learn when you go to Grand Cayman. Now, Jenny, you got a whole list of food over there, and I can't believe you've hit it all. Is there still a few more food items, things to try when we go back to Grand Cayman?
I mean, absolutely. Of course, there's conch.
Conch,
yes.
But they're very well known for their jerk
Ooh,
chicken.
yum.
Jerk chicken.
Which, of course, is a little spicy and has peppers and smoked and probably just all delicious.
I was disappointed when we went to hell that you couldn't get a devil dog.
Oh.
Our northeastern friends will know what that is.
Yes.
heard of those.
And of course, also, we wouldn't be complete if we didn't talk about dessert for food.
Absolutely.
So they have a heavy cake, also known as cassava cake, and it's cassava, which is starchy, and it's like a yuca.
Okay.
But it also has flour, eggs, coconut milk, vanilla, cinnamon. I mean, it just sounds sweet.
We'll have to look
Moist
at
and delicious.
that. Absolutely.
So there are some restaurants near the port that you can try some turtle burgers and turtle stew and conch fritters and all this great jerk chicken and heavy cake. One is called the Caribbean Kitchen, comes very highly recommended. Nice little walk from the port. And of course they have free Wi-Fi, which a lot of people always look for in a restaurant. And the Old Ghoul, which is very well known for their turtle burgers and turtle soup. Good local cuisine, so check those out. And of course, they have Margaritaville and Hard Rock. So if you're not into that local cuisine, go check those out. And I know that Matt likes a nice beer.
Yes, he does.
So they have a local beer that is called the Iron Shore Bock. It's an amber beer brewed in a specialty hop at Cascade Mountains Brewery, and it's aged in rum barrels.
Oh, okay,
Ooh.
Sold. Sold.
So I think next time we're in Grand Cayman, if you haven't tried it yet, we'll definitely get you one nice and cold, and we'll taste that. I
love rum cask beer. Absolutely, yes. That sounds magnificent. I did not know that existed, or I would have hunted one down before.
Well, those are just some of the attractions, some of the things that you can get into at Grand Cayman. Of course, it's not exhaustive. Hopefully these recommendations are helpful, but if you have any recommendations that you would recommend in Grand Cayman, you can send us an email at thecruisegeeks@gmail.com and let us know what you've got going on in Grand Cayman, and maybe we can include that the next time we talk about it. But Matt, I'm going to guess the cruise creature today, is it something that we've already talked about?
In fact, it is something we've already talked about. And really, I've kind of done this creature before in a sense, in the more common sense, because it is the sea turtle. The thing is, though, I'm not going to talk about the same species of sea turtle. There are 7 species of sea turtle currently recognized on the planet. And the ones that you find in Grand Cayman are the hawksbill sea turtle, the green sea turtle, which is the one I've done before, and of course the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle, which is the most endangered sea turtle species of all the sea turtles. It is also the smallest of all the sea turtles, and these are really interesting turtles. Now, the Cayman Turtle Center has successfully reproduced these, as I mentioned, and released some of them into the wild. And the challenge that these turtles have is that their range is a little bit smaller than most of the other sea turtles. No, it's still a big range. They're throughout the Gulf of Mexico. They're even around they kind of hug the coast of the United States all the way up into like the New York area on occasion. But and occasionally they've even been found over in Europe. But for the most part, they're going to be in the Caribbean, in the Gulf of Mexico. And that's because all of these turtles nest in Mexico. And so they nest in Mexico, and they're kind of weird in the sense that they don't nest individually. They go and they nest together. And the other thing that's weird is that they nest during the day. Yeah, so that's kind of an anomaly with these guys. Now, when they go over to these Mexican beaches and they nest together, they actually have a word for it, which is an arribada, which I just like to say arribada. But that's when they all go up there. And of course, that makes them an easy target for poachers and things like that in the past. Now, there are some protections in place for these turtles, but they still have a hard time recovering because sea turtles, out of a nest of maybe 30 to 60 sea turtle babies, only a small percentage of those are going to make it under normal conditions. That's how nature works. But then if you add in the occasional poacher or fishing net, or maybe they eat a plastic bag thinking it's a jellyfish, now you're just taking that number down even lower. So Kemp's Ridley sea turtles are really cool. I've seen them at aquariums where I've been, where I've worked, and they need a lot of protection. So I'm glad that they are getting that in the Cayman Islands. Really cool sea turtle. If you see one, that is awesome. I've never seen one in the wild. I've seen greens, I've seen loggerheads, and I've seen hawksbills. So I have not seen. There are 5 turtles you can see in the Caribbean. The other ones are the leatherback and the Kemp's Ridley, and I have not seen either of those. If I see either of those, you're going to see a really excited Matt. Almost as excited, maybe even more excited as when I saw the octopus. I don't know. We'll just have to go with what happens naturally there. But yeah, really cool animals. The Kemp's Ridley sea turtle. And by the way, they're named after a man named Kemp, so that's why they get that name. And they think Ridley because the olive Ridley, which is in the Pacific, has that same strange nesting behavior.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say they're the most bullied sea turtles because they have that awkward name, but it makes sense.
So that's the cruise creature. Now I guess we just need to come up with our tip of the week.
Well, Matt, I don't know if you know or not, but we are going on a cruise in less than 13 days. I think you probably do know about that. And
it has crossed my mind.
We've been doing a cruise tip a day on the Lido Loca YouTube channel. It's a cruise count up, so 31 cruise tips in 31 days. We're inviting the viewers and the listeners to participate, to provide their own cruise tips. We almost have an encyclopedia of cruise tips going over there. And so I'm going to borrow one of the cruise tips that I came upon this week that I really never had researched. And the idea is, how do you contact somebody when they're on a cruise ship? A lot of people like to go cruising, and they like to go completely off the grid. They like to not get the internet package. They like to shut down their cell phones. And that leaves the situation where if something goes sideways at home, how do you get a hold of that person? So if you're dealing with somebody that's not using any kind of app to communicate back home, if they've completely shut off their data, if they're not using their phone, you can actually reach out to the cruise lines to contact your loved one. Each cruise line does it differently. Some cruise lines, it really all involves contacting customer service. Some of the cruise lines have a dedicated emergency phone number. Some of them have a call center that you call into, and they will reroute your information to the cruise ship. Just the key information that you want to know. You want to know the name of the passenger that you're trying to reach. You also want to know what cabin number they are in, and then possibly you want to know their booking number. So part of your pre-cruise preparation, if you are leaving somebody in charge of your affairs at home, make sure that you give them that information. What's your cabin number? What's your booking number? And probably in advance, go ahead and look up the number they need to call if they need to get a hold of you on the cruise ship. And then when you call with an emergency, they'll track you down either through an announcement or leave a message in your room, that kind of thing. But I hadn't thought about it before. We have gone on one cruise where we went completely dark, and it was nice. But there was this worry, like, oh, is anything going wrong at home? And now we usually use the internet, so there's ways to contact people through apps and those kind of things. But if you're in that situation, probably one of your cruise prep things to do is leave a loved one your information and how to get a hold of you through the cruise line.
That is a great tip. And nowadays we usually have the internet, but I would still make sure you have that contact information and leave that contact your information, because you never know, if you're not getting good internet or something, that's just going to be an easier, more reliable way, or just a backup even. But that's a great piece of advice there. And I will link to that video as well in the show notes. So check out Lido Loca for 31 tips. Actually, there's way more than 31 tips on Lido Loca. Just 31 tips coming right now. You can find all kinds of great information over there on the Lido Loca Cruise channel on YouTube. And also make sure you are a part of the Lido Loca cruising community over on Facebook, where you can interact with hundreds, thousands of different cruisers with great information and just fun stories.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks. Everybody's invited, and like you said, the community is growing, and if you have questions that you want to ask in real time and you can't get a hold of one of us, there's going to be somebody there that can help you out. So it's a really good resource. And while we're talking about it, if you want more of Matt and Sandy, make sure you go check out the Cruise Geeks YouTube channel. We mentioned it earlier. There are a lot of good vlogs from Grand Cayman, a lot of great dive vlogs that Matt's done, and you can see a monkey sitting on Sandy's head, which I would be embarrassed to say how often I go back and watch that. It's a weird thing that's going on in my life, but and because of Sandy, I'm going to a monkey jungle on this next cruise, and so it's purely a selfish desire to have a monkey on my head. So, like Jenny said, we've been to hell and back. I've had a monkey on my back for a while, and now I'm ready to have a monkey on my head. Oh, the look I just got, kids. I'm just kidding. And
that excursion was almost put into jeopardy for me because I just found out, I don't know how I didn't know this, but I was looking to see if there were still American crocodiles in the Cayman Islands. And the cool news is that the American crocodile population has bounced back and they've started to see them there again. So for me, that's really cool. But during that research, I found out that one of the most dense and largest concentrations of American crocodiles is in the Dominican Republic.
Ooh.
But luckily for Sandy, it is
we almost lost him, folks. We almost
way too
lost
far
him
from the port. I can't get there, so I'm still doing the monkey jungle, which I am excited about.
One thing we also want to bring up, if this information is helpful, Sandy and Jenny are both a wealth of information, not only about ports, but also about how to get your travel on. They are both travel agents, and they can help you with your vacation planning. So if you need any help that way, if you have any questions that you can't answer and you want a second opinion, reach out to Sandy or Jenny at thegeeketstravel at gmail.com.
All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap up episode 61. And the only thing I'm happy about wrapping up episode 61 is it means that we're that much closer to our cruise.
It's getting close.
Is that what we can say? Cruise day!
Cruise
Cruise
day.
day.
Woo-hoo,
It's coming
it's
soon.
Cruise day. Well, that's it, folks. Thanks for stopping by. This is Tony.
And I'm Jenny.
And I'm Sandy.
And I'm Matt, and we are the Cruise Geeks.
And until the next time, I say keep it geeky, my friends.
And have a fantastic week. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to episode 61 of the Cruise Geeks. I got nothing to say except for I am super excited. I'm going to be going on a cruise so soon. That's all I got. Talk to you guys next week.
That's it. That is episode 61 of the Cruise Geeks Lido Loca podcast. Man, it took me right back to Grand Cayman. We did go there. I'll leave some links above and in the description below for our vlogs from Grand Cayman. Such a good time and such a great weekend cruising. If you have any questions, about the podcast, leave them in the comments below. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to the Lido Loca YouTube channel. Check out all of our social media. Again, this is Tony with Lido Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.